Tonight, Donald Trump's fragile peace agreement begins to unravel. Israel says it will halve the amount of aid allowed into Gaza and keep a key border crossing closed. Officials say Hamas has been too slow to return dead hostages. 4 more bodies have now arrived in Israel. From the families of those who survived, a demand for a national inquiry and a promise to those whose loved ones died.
They will be heroes forever. They will never, ever be forgotten. And I promise you, you will never be alone.
The US president swiftly returned to Washington in time to honor his friend Charlie Kirk. We'll bring you that ceremony live. And we hear from the niece of a Kenyan woman allegedly murdered by a British soldier as she brings her campaign to the UK. That's all coming up on The World with me, Mark Austin. Good evening from Jerusalem. 24 hours ago, we brought you the scenes of jubilation in Tel Aviv, in Khan Yunis and on the West Bank. You heard Donald Trump's declaration that he had brought peace to the Middle East. But now the cracks are beginning to show. Israeli officials and families of hostages have accused Hamas of violating the ceasefire deal by not returning all the bodies of everyone they held hostage. Israel has retaliated by limiting the amount of aid allowed into the Strip from tomorrow. So far, Hamas has returned 8 dead hostages. Others are thought to be buried underneath the rubble. And in Gaza, dozens of bodies were returned. Officials provided only numbers, no names. The families of the disappeared waited to find out if they could finally bury their loved ones. 738 days and the clock in Hostages Square is still ticking. Families of those who survived say they will not rest till everyone is home. We'll hear from them in a moment, but let's get started with our first report from our Middle East correspondent, Adam Parsons.
In Gaza, the dream is of a better life, but the spectre of death hangs over everything and everyone. Somewhere amid this destruction are the remains of Israeli hostages, and who knows how many Gazan bodies also lie under this rubble. More grief delivered here, the bodies of 45 Palestinian prisoners brought to Gaza by the Red Cross. This woman came in hope. 6 of her children have already died, and her son has been missing since the start of the war.
It's been 2 years since my son went missing, and to this day I don't know if he's a martyr or a prisoner. There's no one I didn't ask about him. When we heard today that the Red Cross was coming with some bodies, I came to see if my son was one of them.
The ceasefire is holding, but it's being tested. Both sides accuse the other of breaches. The Israeli military killed at least 6 people. It says they crossed into a forbidden zone. Hamas said that was a violation. Israel says it will delay reopening the crucial Rafah crossing until Hamas does more to return the dead hostages. Hamas responded by saying it will transfer the remains of 4 more people. What's obvious is that aid is needed.
We would urge the Israeli authorities to not use aid in this manner, to open all of the crossings as soon as possible and allow aid to flow into the Gaza Strip unfettered.
But assuming this deal does live on, what of the future? The US president adamant that Hamas will lay down its weapons, come what may.
We have told them we want to disarm, and they will disarm. And if they don't disarm, we will disarm them.
Some of the fruits of this deal are already being seen. Akram was detained at the start of the war. Now he's been reunited with his family.
We were beaten mercilessly to the point of death. Many of our fellow prisoners were martyred before our eyes as a result of those fatal blows. After such beatings, we would cry out to the prison guards for help, but they would respond with cold indifference, saying, "Let him die."
Sky News has put these allegations to the Israeli authorities. Across Gaza, people are on the move, returning to homes that they hope are still standing. A blighted land held together by a fragile ceasefire. Adam Parsons, Sky News, Jerusalem.
And Adam is here with me now. So the Red Cross receiving 4 more bodies, we understand, tonight. But as you said in your report, the ceasefire and the deal is already being tested.
Yeah, and it is a fragile one. So on these extra hostages, the deceased hostages, my understanding is right now the Red Cross vehicles are going to Gaza. They will be met by Hamas. They will pass over what we're told now 4 coffins, and then they will be within Gaza handed over to the Israeli military, who will bring them into Israel. So they will come into Israel tonight. And I think Israel will see this as yet another vindication of this kind of Donald Trump era, that gentle diplomacy doesn't get you anywhere. What you need to do is threats. So Israel earlier today said it would be closing the Rafah crossing for an indefinite period, maybe tomorrow, maybe for longer. Would also only be allowing in 300 aid trucks, half the number it's supposed to, as well as rationing cooking fuel and gas. And they will say, well, look, no sooner do we do this than Hamas is handing over more of the bodies that we want back. It's clear, Mark, that Hamas doesn't know where all of these bodies are. They're trying to track them down. It may well be that some of them are under rubble, that the people who were looking after these bodies have been killed in military action. It is certainly not clear that they'll be able to get all of these back. But there's these arguments about the status of the ceasefire. At the moment, I think they're almost, if not performative, but certainly both sides looking for things. Now, as it happens in this conflict, when you look for these small things, they're actually, by normal standards, enormous. Civilians being killed, or these hostages not being returned, Rafah crossing being shut. These are really significant things. The safeguard, I think, is that Donald Trump is by far and away the most popular politician in this country right now. He's put his name to this ceasefire. He's almost put his Middle East reputation. Even he said, well, we want the hostages back, to reiterate that. He said Hamas must disarm. If they don't, we'll make them do that. No idea what he actually means by that. But it sounds as if he's still got impetus behind this. And as long as he does, then Benjamin Netanyahu is not going to want to collapse this ceasefire, as some in the West Bank, in Gaza, and even here in East Jerusalem really think he wants to.
OK, Adam, thank you very much indeed. Well, Ruth James is Oxfam International's regional humanitarian coordinator for the Middle East, and was in Gaza, I understand, until a couple of weeks ago. Thank you for being with us. Just first of all, on this decision tonight by Israel to cut the amount of aid going in, 300 trucks, not 600 trucks a day. How much of a blow will that be?
Thank you. Thanks for having me. It's a huge blow. We're speaking about a population of over 2 million people that have suffered 2 years of relentless bombardment, starvation, and denial of access to the most basic of resources. The so-called 600 trucks a day that we're speaking about is really the bare minimum that population needs to be able to survive, let alone kind of build lives and recover livelihoods. But I think a more important point to make is that the delivery of humanitarian aid should never be linked to military objectives or anything else than whether or not those people need humanitarian aid. They need humanitarian aid. We know that a famine was confirmed to be present in Gaza City in August. When I was there, it was very evident that there was insufficient food available in the market, and the food that was available was unbelievably overpriced. It was like 3 times the price of what you would pay in the supermarket here in the UK. We're speaking about a population that is starving and in need of medical supplies and water and hygiene items and everything else. They need that. And blocking the access of trucks, continuing to block the access of this humanitarian aid is a collective punishment on a largely civilian population. It's illegal, and it's unacceptable, frankly. Agencies like us, like Oxfam, we have over $2.5 million worth of aid. right now in Jordan and in Egypt waiting to enter. And actually, on Sunday, we submitted new requests through the mechanism to the Israelis to allow us to bring that in. And those requests were rejected on Sunday within a matter of hours. And that was for things like food parcels and hygiene items like soap and sanitary pads and things like that. These crossing, in order for this
so you were, sorry to interrupt you. I gather you were there, you were in Gaza City. I know there's been a ceasefire since you left, but give us a sense, if you can, of the humanitarian crisis, the state of the crisis when you were there.
It's been very hard for me to honestly find the words. I was in Gaza City where the famine was confirmed to be. I left, a couple of weeks ago, and at the time that I was there was when the Israeli military ordered the whole of Gaza City evacuation order, where estimates put like 1 million people were living there at the time. This is a population that was already confirmed to be in famine, meaning people are starving to death. Issuing a forced evacuation order for all of those people, it was the equivalent of a death sentence for many. Simply, you can imagine, if you're already starving, there's no way you can pack up your things and move to the south. At that time, the cost of the transportation to move to the south, because Israel has not allowed commercial fuel into Gaza since before the 7th of October 2023, the cost of those transportations was over $1,000. Of course, that's out of reach for a population that are starving. And then the only option left to them is to walk. Pick up their kids, pick up whatever they can carry on their back and walk. But these are people who were starving and have had no access to basic healthcare for 2 years. It was a complete catastrophe. It was, inhumane way of treating people, and it was just horrific to see, honestly. It was devastating to see.
So, look, we've only got 30 seconds left, I'm afraid, but what would you say was the main challenge for Oxfam right now in Gaza?
Bringing in our aid. We need to have all the crossing points open right now. Our aid is a couple of 100 kilometers away. Open the gate, the roads are fine, we're ready to go. Let us bring in these humanitarian supplies, or we're going to continue to see people starving and people dying from entirely preventable diseases.
Okay, Ruth, appreciate you coming on the programme. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, anger is growing here, as we were saying, over the failure to return the bodies of the remaining hostages. Speaking tonight, the families of those who survived called on Israeli forces to remain in Gaza until every single captive is back in Israel. Our international correspondent, Alex Rossi, has that story.
It has been an unbelievable time of celebration and relief for the families of the living hostages. Omri Moran back in the arms of his family and playing with his young children. At the hospital where he's being assessed, his wife spoke for the first time since his release from Gaza.
Omri is finally home. Ronnie and Alma ran into their father's arm, and he heard them say, Abba, Daddy, again. In that moment, fulfilled the promise I made on October 7.
Although the living hostages have returned, many of the bodies of those taken have not. This was the convoy moving 4 of them to Israel's National Forensic Institute for identification, people lining the road to pay their respects. All have now been identified. Israel is warning that any delays in returning the remains of the hostages will be viewed as a violation of the ceasefire agreement. But the International Red Cross says it's a massive challenge as some of the bodies are buried under the rubble, and recovering them will take time. Certainly days, maybe even weeks. And there's no guarantee that all of them can be found. For the families of the dead, the not knowing is unbearable. Udi Goran's cousin is still somewhere in Gaza. The campaigning, he says, will continue until all of the hostages are repatriated.
We're still here. Tal is not back home. Our family is still at the same spot we were yesterday and 2 days ago and for the past 2 years. Unless he's back home, first of all, there's always this sliver of doubt. What happens? Where is he? Maybe someone was wrong. And only when he's brought back, then we can mourn him.
Israel is still celebrating the return and the reunions of the living hostages. But while the remains of others are still not home, there can be no closure. Alex Rossi, Sky News, Tel Aviv.
Let's bring in Daniel Sheck, former Israeli diplomat, currently head of diplomacy at the Hostages and Missing Families Forum. Good evening to you. Thank you very much indeed for being with us. And first of all, 4 more bodies of hostages, we're told, are in the hands of the Red Cross this evening. I am sure that that will be a source of great comfort to those families.
Well, the bodies have to be identified and confirmed, obviously, but in principle, 4 families will have closure. I'm not sure comfort is the word, but closure. But that is still unsatisfactory. Nowhere in the agreement is there talk about the bodies being returned in small batches, while some of us might understand that there is difficulty maybe in finding a few of them. We know with certainty that Hamas has the capacity, the ability to locate and hand over a much larger number of the deceased hostages.
Yes, that's interesting what you say. Is the awful truth, though, perhaps that some of the bodies may never be recovered because they are buried in rubble?
The objective is, and the agreement states, 28 deceased hostages. And that is what we are aiming for. Might we understand that for several it might take longer than for others? Possibly, but the target remains the same. That's what Hamas signed for.
Absolutely, and it's such a distressing time for those families. Give us a sense, if you can, you talk to them, what they're going through.
On the one hand, one of the really beautiful features of the forum over these much too long 24 months is the solidarity, the feeling of being one large family. And that enables the families of the deceased hostages to express joy for the families who have had their loved ones return, but also for those celebrating the return of their loved ones to never forget their friends and colleagues of the families of those who are deceased. So while we are still, basking in the joy of the last 24 hours, and we probably will for a while, we are regrouping, and many of the families of the hostages who have returned now and before are regrouping in order to continue the fight until the very last hostage.
Daniel, one mother I saw in an interview earlier today, Yael Adar, whose son's body we think is still in Gaza, believes that the Israeli government has betrayed the dead hostages' families, her point being that they failed to set a deadline. This is what she says in the interview. I wonder what you make of that. Does she have a point?
Look, I can't put with all the friendship and solidarity with the families, I can't put myself in the minds and mindset of Yael Adar and the other families. She's a wonderful woman, and she is terribly exhausted and frustrated by such a long wait. So yes, that is what she said, and the forum has expressed its expectation that the Israeli government will insist on every little detail of this part of the agreement, notably the return of the bodies. And Hamas are in breach of the agreement. And the forum, which is obviously not a political organization, it's a single issue organization devoted to the families and the return of the hostages, it does expect the Israeli government to react. And to be honest, I think the Israeli government is putting pressure on the mediators, and the mediators are putting pressure on Hamas. I read just a while ago that President Trump has specifically spoken about this. So I really hope that within the next hours or a day or two, this issue will be resolved. Otherwise, we cannot move forward with the rest of the agreement. That is absolutely out of the question.
Daniel, I appreciate you coming on. Thank you very much indeed. Now, hundreds of thousands of Palestinians have been returning to their homes in Gaza this week to find nothing but rubble. The UN Development Programme says over 80% of all buildings in the territory have been destroyed or damaged, and estimate at least 55 million tons of rubble need to be cleared. That's being hampered, however, by unexploded weapons such as aircraft bombs, missiles and booby traps, making it incredibly dangerous for the Palestinians in Gaza. Let's speak now to Ollie Thompson, Senior Programme Manager at the Halo Trust, a UK-based charity that clears and manages explosives around the world, and I think is about to do some work in Gaza. And I've been reading today that it's estimated 5 to 10% of weapons fired in Gaza have failed to detonate. Ollie, this sounds like a huge problem.
Good evening, Mark. It is a significant problem, but let me just start by saying that this isn't something that is new to Halo. You know, we are well known around the world as a landmine clearance charity, and we have worked in rural communities in Angola and Cambodia. We're known for that. But we are also known for conducting urban operations. Back in the 1990s, our organisation worked in West Kabul. More recently, we've worked in Sirte in Libya, Taiz in Yemen, and right now, we are dealing with a lot of similar threats in Syria. So although this is a significant challenge, we are well positioned to embrace this challenge.
But I guess if the ceasefire holds, more people will start going back to their homes or trying to get back to their homes, and that means that speed is of the essence in this operation.
You're absolutely right. As I've seen from my own experience in Libya, Iraq and Afghanistan, as soon as peace breaks out over land, people are very keen to return to their houses, to their apartments. What they want to do is look for their belongings. They want to find material that they can use to begin to rebuild. But unfortunately, within this rubble, there are going to be unexploded devices. And these devices, they present a significant risk, not only to the Palestinian people, but also to any future reconstruction effort. And what we have also seen, and I saw in my time in working in Gaza through February and March earlier this year, is the presence of this explosive ordnance in schools, in hospitals, in distribution centres. So in order for other aid agencies to rebuild and deliver their humanitarian aid to the people of Palestine, we have to deploy at scale. So we have a plan in place to deploy 100 bomb disposal operators as quickly as possible in order to meet these challenges, enable humanitarian aid to be delivered and enable reconstruction across Gaza.
And I mentioned a few in the introduction to you, but we've seen some pretty serious weaponry used in Gaza over the past 2 years. What kind of ordnance do you think is out there unexploded?
We are anticipating a wide variety of ordnance, anything from booby traps. These are homemade devices for which there is no instruction manual. We are expecting smaller devices such as grenades or RPGs. But there are also going to be larger aircraft bombs. Now, For this reason, we require specialist skills. But Halo has an excellent safety record and a lot of experience dealing with these kinds of munitions. We are less concerned about our own safety, but more so about the Palestinian communities and other humanitarian operators who want to deliver their services as well.
It's a very condensed area, clearly. It's a highly populated area. Compared to those other places that you mentioned just there, where Halo have operated, how difficult a job do you think this could be?
Gaza is unique, both in the scale. You mentioned 55 million tons of rubble, of debris. Within that, there are going to be explosive devices, but we also anticipate unstable structures. There are going to be human remains that need to be handled with dignity. And we also anticipate there to be sewage and other biohazards. So it's not just the explosive risks that we're looking to try to tackle, but we will need to work alongside any construction-led effort in order for us to provide our bomb disposal services in order to facilitate any humanitarian aid delivery or reconstruction in Gaza.
And finally, Ollie, a difficult question. How long do you think it could take to make Gaza safe?
Well, I think Halo needs to be seen as a technical service provider. We are bomb disposal specialists, and we are used to operating in this type of theatre. Now, there are reconstruction plans in place. There are various plans on the table. These are ambitious. The Arab plan states 5 years. Now, that is going to be a large-scale construction response. So the scale of the ordnance and the scale of the needs has to be met by the scale of our own response. So we anticipate that with 60 million of funding for our organisation sustained over 5 years, we can do the bulk of the bomb disposal. But the simple fact is, cities across Europe are still finding bombs 80 years after the Second World War. So this will be a long road for us as an organisation, for the humanitarian sector, and of course for the people of Gaza.
And just finally, do you have to wait for the International Stabilisation Force to start operating, or, I mean, when do you think you will be able to get in?
We're monitoring the situation very, very closely, and safety is our number one concern. We are very concerned at the moment, though, that many more Palestinians will die unless a large-scale and fully funded bomb disposal response is put in place now.
OK, Ollie Thompson, appreciate that. Thank you very much indeed for coming on the programme, and I wish you luck with the work that you end up doing in Gaza.
Thank you.
Now, the International Committee of the Red Cross has today facilitated the transfer of 4 deceased hostages to Israeli authorities. It is confirmed. The ICRC teams also facilitated the transfer of 45 deceased Palestinians to Gaza. These operations were carried out, says the Red Cross, in line with the ceasefire agreement, and it is crucial that the parties and mediators ensure the agreement is faithfully upheld. They say the ICRC remains committed to fulfilling its role as a neutral intermediary so that families can have closure. We know that the families won't give up on their loved ones, and neither are we prepared to fulfill our role as long as it takes, or rather we are prepared to fulfill our role as long as it takes, as agreed by the parties. That's Julian Lerison, the ICRC's head of delegation in Israel and the occupied territories. You're watching The World with me, Mark Austin, live from Jerusalem this evening. Still to come, we'll take you live to the White House, where Donald Trump is due to be presenting the Presidential Medal of Freedom to Erica Kirk, the widow of Charlie Kirk. And also coming up, the niece of a woman allegedly killed by a former British soldier speaks to Sky News 13 years on from her aunt's death.
I'm Dominic Waghorn, Sky's International Affairs Editor, covering a world that seems to be unravelling.
It's not his country, it's ours.
Sky News, the full story first, free wherever you get your news. It's half an hour now past the deadline that Hamas issued, and we've now seen a third barrage of rockets coming in.
We arrive, a secret hospital hidden in the Myanmar jungle, treating the victims of this bloody war. This is Myanmar today. Its military rulers don't want the world to see, but we have.
I fight for my own future. I fight for my generation's futures.
This is an actual crime.
They don't care for that.
Myanmar army is only a couple of kilometers away. So this is a major humanitarian disaster.
We've got your Sunday mornings covered. From the front page and the sounds of the streets to the voices of the people who make the major calls and big picture politics beyond Westminster. We'll put you at the heart of our story. I'm ready. Are you? Join me, Trevor Phillips, Sunday mornings on Sky News.
Before we do anything else, let's have a look at the White House, where we are expecting a ceremony shortly where President Trump is posthumously awarding Charlie Kirk the Presidential Medal of Freedom, also marking the political activist's 32nd birthday. That Medal of Freedom will be presented to his widow, Erica Kirk, in that ceremony. As you can see there, they're almost ready, and that is in I think it is, it was supposed to be inside. It looks as though it is now going to be held outside. But that ceremony taking place in due course, and we'll bring that to you as it happens. Now, the niece of a woman allegedly murdered by a former British Army soldier in Kenya 13 years ago has told Sky News she is fighting for justice, not just for her aunt, but also to ensure other young women don't suffer the same fate. The body of Agnes Wanjiru was found in a septic tank close to a British Army base in the town of Nanyuki in March 2012, 2 months after she went missing. Last month, Kenyan prosecutors issued an arrest warrant for a British national who's accused of killing the 21-year-old. Today, Agnes's niece, Esther Njoki, made the family's case for the suspect to be extradited in a meeting with the UK Defence Secretary. Sarah Jane Mee spoke to Esther after that meeting and asked her what she wanted to get from her visit.
My reason for visit is to keep on putting pressure. One, because extradition must be done, and us as a family want the guy to be extradited in Kenya because he shouldn't be excused for any reason just because he had an army uniform. If he didn't want to be extradited in Kenya, he could not have killed Agnes. I believe before they are deployed to Kenya, they are always taken through the laws of the host country. So he knew, and then this is someone who mocked Agnes, so he should be extradited. And also, I'm also here because I want to change. The change must begin with us. It doesn't matter where I come from. I come from the same background Agnes came from. I know they took advantage because my family is not able. But again, I've seen things are changing since I stepped up and saying what is happening and trying to hold the government accountable. So I want change in the internal systems of the army because I believe they're the biggest challenge, because when this guy will be extradited, he'll have to uncover those people who helped him to get away with Agnes' murder. So if we can be able to change the internal systems, I think we'll secure a good future for other generations, because my family has had to go through hell, pain, frustration, just because of the systems which failed Agnes and failed her child.
Let's talk more about accountability, because you mentioned that. You want your aunt's killer to face justice in Kenya, but you also want accountability from those that knew in the army what had happened to your aunt, because the premise is that this was an open secret. Reports that the soldier involved confessed to comrades and it was reported to superiors but not acted upon. Is looking at accountability as important as bringing your aunt's killer to Kenya to face justice?
If we let them go, those who helped him, we are not solving anything here. It's not only Agnes' case. There are so many other cases. The Agnes case, it's only because it is controversial, political, and high profile. But again, us as the family, like Ava said, change begins with us, and I'm the change. And that's why I want to pave way even for other victims who are going through, who their cases have not been solved. So that's why I want all these people to be held accountable.
Yeah.
It will make the British Army learn that no one is immune or despite your power or position, because those who are in position right now, I don't think they'll ever let anything else happen like what happened to Agnes or even in the other cases.
Your aunt's is a high-profile, tragic case, but it's not isolated in terms of local women in your region being mistreated, and this has been going on for some time. I mean, it was clear there was a problem because the armed forces banned using sex workers in 2022. They identified that there was a problem and they brought that in to try and tackle it. Talk to me about what it's been like in your region for young women and girls.
Yes, I've seen people calling our girls sex workers, but I think even the
vulnerable women.
Yeah, vulnerable women. So I don't understand why people tend to stereotype women just because of being associated with sex. It can justify what they do. Again, this is someone who should protect you. So I don't understand why people justify all the atrocities that have been committed by the British soldiers to sex. Agnes is one of the cases which have always been engaged in sex work. I'm like, but you can't justify murder with sex. So, I mean, there are so many stories, heartbreaking stories, especially
and it's still
of sex.
happening.
And they're still happening.
13 years on.
There's the way when you can stop this. Ban the boys from going outside. We'll not have these issues. But if they keep on letting them go outside, then the cases will not reduce.
What's this been like for your family over the last 13 years?
It's been hard, especially for her daughter now, who's understanding what happened. And she's now at the age where she understands what injustice means. And this is a matter that is taking a toll on her mentally. I've seen it, and that's why I'm always out there speaking out what happened to Agnes and advocating. We are expecting so many hurdles, especially now that extradition, and now we know, we have seen the face of the perpetrator, we know his name, so it is hard for us especially, because now it is like rubbing an old wound. So we are expecting so many hurdles to be ahead because of the extradition process. It might take longer, more than 5 years. That is to say, Agnes' daughter will be an adult. But what we want to is we secure a good future for other generations. Yes, the system failed Agnes, but we cannot let women and girls fail the same way Agnes was failed.
And Esther, it must not be lost on you the fact that you are the same age, 21, as your aunt when she was killed. And as you said, you're not just doing this.
It was Esther in joking there, and her fight for justice, really for her aunt. Now, let's go back to the... Well, first of all, I should just tell you that we asked the government for a statement, and if I can... we're not going to use that statement. We're going to go over to the White House, where, as you can see, Donald Trump is speaking.
Not loved a lot of things. We have the Presidential Walk of Fame, which you just saw, and it just opened, and we wanted to get it open for this occasion. We were hoping we were able to get outside, and the weather allowed us to. It was supposed to be a terrible rainy day, I was telling Eric, and God was watching, and he didn't want that for Charlie. He just didn't want that. So it's really beautiful. It couldn't be more beautiful. Today we're here to honor and remember a fearless warrior for liberty, beloved leader who galvanized the next generation like nobody I've ever seen before, and an American patriot of the deepest conviction, the finest quality and the highest caliber, the late, great Charlie Kirk. Five weeks ago, our nation was robbed of this extraordinary champion. He was a champion in every way. I got to know him so well. He didn't like losing. And he was able to fight people that were enemies. And he didn't necessarily love those enemies so much. You know, I heard he loved his enemies. And I said, wait a minute, is that the same Charlie that I know? I'm not sure. But I didn't want to get into it. But it was a horrible, heinous, demonic act of murder. He was assassinated in the prime of his life for boldly speaking the truth, for living his faith and relentlessly fighting for a better and stronger America. He loved this country. And that's why this afternoon it's my privilege to posthumously award Charles James Kirk, our nation's highest civilian honor, the Presidential Medal of Freedom. Thank you. As you know, only hours ago, I returned from a very historic trip to secure peace in the Middle East. People said that couldn't be done. Charlie felt it could be done. Charlie felt it could be done. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. But I raced back halfway around the globe. I was going to call Erica and say, Erica, could you maybe move it to Friday? And I didn't have the courage to call. But you know why I didn't call? Because I heard today was Charlie's birthday. And I said, you know, that was a definite. And I said, we're going to have to forget about some of those very big, very rich countries that expected me to be there. And I can tell you, based on the length of that flight, I wouldn't want to go back tomorrow. But I would not have missed this moment for anything in the world, nothing. And it's a very important time for our country, and our country is doing so well. It's never done better. We are a country with almost now $18 trillion of investment coming in. Nobody's ever seen anything like that. Previous administration had less than $1 trillion for 4 years. We have more than 18, it'll be much more than 20 by the time the year, more than $20 trillion. There's never been a country in the world that had anything like that. What's happened to our country is incredible in a short period of time. Charlie was a big person for, sir, can we close up those borders, please, a little bit? You know, they're really leaking badly. I said, Charlie, I haven't gotten there yet. But, you know, it came out last 4 months. Literally nobody was allowed into our country. And the only people that were allowed in were people that came in legally. The borders are absolutely stone cold closed. And they reported 0, 0, 0, and 0. So that's pretty good. But he was a big believer. He wanted people in the country more than I did, frankly. He wanted them to come in legally. And he got his wish. October 14th is Charlie's birthday, and he should have been turning 32 years old. I tell you, when I first met him, he was like 22. And I said, boy, he's awfully young. But I thought he was older than that, you know. He looked a little bit older than his age. That's okay, you know. That's not good when you're old, but when you're young, it's great. He had the best of all things, but he was special. But instead, Charlie is attaining a far more important milestone. We're entering his name forever into the eternal roster of true American heroes. He's a true American hero, an amazing person, way, way beyond his years. And I'm honored to be joined by a woman who has endured unspeakable hardship with unbelievable strength, and that's Charlie's widow, Erica. And I just want to thank you, Erica. He loved you so much. I was with him. Oh, please. Thank you, darling. Thank you. I was with him before I met Erica, and he told me he was going to get married. He said, you won't believe how beautiful she is. I said, well, then now that I meet her, he's right. But then he also said, and you know what? She's like the smartest person I know. See, they do go together on occasion. Not often. Not often. But on occasion they go together. But he was in love with you. He was deeply in love with you. It's great. Erica, your love and courage have been an inspiration to all of us, and we will always be here for you, and we're always going to be here for your gorgeous, beautiful children. And we'll never forget what your family has sacrificed for our country. Man loved our country. When things were going badly for our country, he was so, as you know, angry. He would get angry because he said it doesn't have to be that way. We're also pleased to be joined by an incredible group of Charlie's friends, very powerful friends, actually, and some not so powerful, and they're actually better people, okay? I know them all. They're the less powerful ones. I have to tell you that, all of you power guys down here, the best ones in the group are the ones that are less successful, but that happens too. No, they're all great, and they're here. And let's start with Erica's father. Where is Erica's father? Where are you? Where are you, Dad? Oh, look at him. Wow. I want to get a hat like that, too. I like that. How are you? Nice to see you again. Thanks as well to Vice President J.D. Vance, who's been fantastic. J.D., thank you very much. Great. Doing a great job. Did a great job on Sunday with George Slopadopoulos. I thought put him away pretty good. Second lady, who's a phenomenal woman, Usha Vance. Thank you very much, Usha. Thank you very much. Great woman. President of Argentina. He wanted to be here. That's Argentina's a serious flight, right? And he's become a superstar, and he's doing amazing things. He's a MAGA person, but it's make Argentina great again. That's what he does, right? And I want you to stand, please, Javier. Javier Milei. Doing a great job. Thank you very much. Many members of my cabinet are here. Just about all of them are here. I won't go into every single one of them, but I'll announce a few of the people that have really turned this country around and helped me. Incredible people. Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson. Where is Mike? Mike, what a job you're doing, Mike. What a job you're doing. And I watched you this morning, and you're in there trying to say, look, just let the country open. Everything will be fine. We're dealing with some radical left lunatics. And I just wish Charlie was here to fight us. I think the fight would have been over already. He would have had a march on the Capitol by people whose average age is about 21, because there's nobody that had that relationship with young people. Right, Mike? So thank you, Mike, for being here. House Majority Leader Steve Scalise. Steve, thank you very much. A brave guy and a friend. House Majority Whip, another terrific man, Tom Emmer. Thank you, Tom. Senate Majority Whip, John Barrasso. John, thank you very much. You have all these senators. I'm going to get in trouble. I'm not going to read all their names. I'll be reading all day. We'll be talking about Charlie in about 45 minutes from now. We can't do that. So all of the senators, there's so many of you, thank you very much. I do want to thank Senator Thune for doing a terrific job. He's really been leading properly. Do you agree, Mike? The team, the two of these guys have been fantastic. So to Senator Thune, I want to thank you very much. Incredible job. I watched him this morning, and he was out there pounding them this morning on television, too. And John Barrasso, thank you for the work you've done, and congratulations on your success. But I want to thank you all and all of the Congress people that are here. And I see we have our Attorney General here, and you are doing a fantastic job. Thank you very much, Pam. Thank you. Thank you very much. We have everybody. Wow, that's incredible. Okay, I'm not going to do any more. I'm going to be here too long. But I just want to thank you. Have given him such support, but he always gave you such support. That's why you're here. And very unusual. Charles James Kirk was a visionary and one of the greatest figures of his generation. He was truly an amazing figure and growing leaps and bounds. He knew that the fight to preserve our heritage is waged not only on the battlefield and in the halls of power, of which we have tremendous power here, including the head of a place called war. We call it now war. We had defense. We had our Secretary of Defense. Now we have a Secretary of War. And somehow I think it's more emblematic, and hopefully we'll never have to use war. But the fact that we're ready is very good. Peace through strength is very important, but also in the hearts of our nation's youth. That's where Charlie rode strongest. At age 18, that insight inspired Charlie to found the organization that ultimately touched the lives of millions and millions of people, and so many young people that nobody's ever seen anything like it, frankly. Turning Point USA. It's amazing, and it's actually bigger now. It's become bigger in the last few weeks than Charlie ever thought. I think his end vision in many years from now would have been just a fraction of what it turned out to be in a couple of weeks, right? It's amazing. With hard work and joyful spirit and endless enthusiasm and determination. And he did have great enthusiasm. You know, I always say you need enthusiasm to be successful. He had great enthusiasm. Charlie grew Turning Point into the largest conservative youth organization in the entire country. He forged a personal bond with countless young conservatives. He fought for free speech, religious liberty, strong borders, and a very strong and proud America. In everything he did, he put America first. He really put America first. And ultimately, Charlie became...
And we'll leave President Trump talking there at that ceremony, and we'll join our correspondent, David Blevins, who is outside the White House for us. And clearly, David, Trump very keen to get back from the Middle East for this ceremony.
Yes, it's been a punishing schedule for the President of the United States, arriving back from that trip to Israel and Egypt in the middle of the night. He told the audience in the last few minutes he had raced back from the other side of the world because this would have been Charlie Kirk's 32nd birthday. It's not unusual for the Presidential Medal of Freedom to be awarded posthumously. It is unusual for it to be awarded so soon after a person's death. It's not quite 5 weeks since Charlie Kirk, the conservative activist, was shot dead on a college campus in Utah. There is the inevitable debate about whether he is a worthy candidate for this. Those who support him say, as an advocate for free speech and faith and American values, most definitely he should be granted America's highest civilian honour. Critics say the president is politicising this award. Nevertheless, he has chosen to mark Charlie Kirk's birthday by granting the highest civilian award, normally reserved for people who have made a significant difference to the national interest, to world peace, or to cultural affairs.
Yeah, and very briefly, David, his stark warning tonight to Hamas to disarm or else, basically.
Yes, it was less of a weave at today's press facility, more of a handbrake turn from Donald Trump, who's gone in the space of 24 hours from being celebrated as the president of peace to someone who's issuing a threat, and not even a veiled one, to Hamas, expressing his hope that they will disarm on the basis of engagement between the terror group and some of his most senior people, but also stressing that if they do not, perhaps they will have to be disarmed violently. That's the term that was used by Donald Trump, but it illustrates, I suppose, the challenge that lies ahead in terms of implementing the later stages of this Middle East peace process.
OK, David, thank you very much indeed. And we'll leave that ceremony. President Trump there at the White House. The news from here tonight is 4 more bodies of hostages have arrived back in Israel tonight. I'm back in a moment with News at 10.
We've got your Sunday mornings covered. From the front page and the sounds of the streets to the voices of the people who make the major calls and big picture politics beyond Westminster. We'll put you at the heart of our story.
I'm ready. Are you?
Join me, Trevor Phillips, Sunday mornings on Sky News.
I witnessed the complete destruction of a place linked to my childhood memories.
This is insane.
I'm Yusra Al-Baqir, Sky's Africa correspondent based in Johannesburg, South Africa. I felt awe when we saw the mountain gorillas in Rwanda.
They call him the king of the jungle. This is the alpha silverback.
Sky News, get the full story first.